Welcome, beautiful Sigma ladies. Sometimes peace requires a little fire. That's the silent philosophy of the Sigma female. The woman who doesn't just walk away, she erases the path behind her so she's never tempted to return. According to behavioral studies, people who value solitude over approval tend to recover faster from betrayal and emotional chaos. And she's the living embodiment of that truth. She doesn't do dramatic exits. There's no tearful goodbye, no lengthy, "we need to talk." Just one final look, a half smile that says, "you'll figure it out eventually." And then, gone. While others hold meetings to rebuild relationships, she's busy rebuilding her peace, sipping her coffee like nothing happened. It's not arrogance, it's precision. Burning bridges, to her, isn't destruction, it's architecture. So when you see her cut ties and not flinch, don't mistake it for coldness. It's her version of spring cleaning, just with a flamethrower instead of a broom. Number 1, she doesn't fear burning bridges. She fears building them with the wrong people. The Sigma female isn't scared of cutting people off. What truly unsettles her is realizing she once gave the wrong person access to her inner world. She knows that most bridges don't collapse because of storms. They collapse because of weak foundations. And weak foundations, in her experience, often come disguised as charm, shared trauma, or temporary chemistry. She's learned that it's not the burning that hurts. It's the investment that preceded it. The emotional energy, the trust, the openness she offered thinking it was mutual. When she realizes it wasn't, she doesn't break down. She breaks patterns. She knows she can rebuild herself faster than she can repair a connection built on deceit or ego. That's why she doesn't hesitate to walk away once she senses fakeness hiding under friendliness. Her instinct isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. She's seen how people pretend loyalty while secretly studying her for weaknesses. She's watched how concern often turns into control, how compliments mask competition. And once she spots that shift, the bridge is already ash. She doesn't hold grudges. That would require her to keep caring. She just resets her access list like a phone update, deleting anyone who no longer deserves bandwidth. While others beg for peace through reconciliation, she finds it through reduction. Her peace comes from subtraction, not addition. What makes her different is that she's not trying to prove her worth by keeping people around. She's done chasing mutual understanding in one-sided dynamics. If connection costs her authenticity, she'll choose solitude every single time. To her, the wrong bridge is more dangerous than no bridge at all, because wrong people don't just waste time, they rewrite your self-worth. So when she burns bridges, she isn't destroying possibilities. She's protecting her evolution. Every flame is a boundary reborn. And the silence that follows? That's not loneliness. That's the sound of her peace finally locking the door. Number 2, she's not bitter, she's edited. The Sigma female doesn't carry bitterness, she carries revisions. Every betrayal, disappointment, and false friendship becomes an edit in her life story. Not a scar she hides, but a line she rewrites. She's not walking around with resentment in her chest, she's walking around with updates installed. People often mistake her calm detachment for coldness, but it's really wisdom disguised as boundaries. She's been through enough emotional chaos to know that bitterness is just energy wasted on people who've already moved on. So she chooses evolution over revenge. When someone wrongs her, she doesn't plot their downfall. She upgrades her standards so quietly that they no longer qualify for access. It's not revenge, it's refinement. She's learned that the best way to heal isn't to scream about the hurt, but to become too emotionally advanced to repeat it. While most people let pain make them cynical, she lets it make her clear. Each bridge she burns teaches her to identify red flags earlier, to speak less and observe more, to trust slower and detach faster. She doesn't grow colder, she grows sharper. This editing process also explains her silence. She doesn't need to justify her absence or explain why she changed. Those who truly knew her understand that she didn't become distant. She became disciplined. She no longer entertains conversations that drain her, relationships that confuse her, or environments that shrink her. The old her would have tried to fix everything. The new her edits without hesitation. People who once had her time might now only get her indifference, and that shift is her self-respect, finally speaking louder than her empathy. She's not punishing anyone. She's protecting herself from repeating emotional history. When she walks away, she doesn't slam the door. She simply rewrites the script and removes your name from the next chapter. She's not bitter. She's just become the final draft of a woman who finally stopped letting unworthy characters write her story. Number 3. She doesn't wait for apologies. She buries expectations. The Sigma female stopped waiting for apologies the day she realized that some people know exactly what they did. They just don't care enough to admit it. She learned that waiting for closure is another way of keeping the wound open, and she's done bleeding for people who never intended to clean the mess they made. So instead of demanding accountability, she buries expectations and keeps her peace intact. She doesn't see forgiveness as a social ritual or an emotional negotiation. For her, forgiveness is private. It happens silently, without fanfare and without contact. She doesn't need an apology to move on. She only needs clarity. And the moment she sees someone's true nature, she frees herself without a single word exchanged. It's not about ego, it's about emotional efficiency. The Sigma female understands that some people will twist apologies into manipulation. They say sorry not to heal, but to reopen access. She refuses to participate in that cycle. When she cuts you off, it's not because she's heartless. It's because she values her inner calm more than recycled drama. She has no interest in revisiting the same pain just to make others comfortable. People often mistake her silence for bitterness, but it's actually acceptance in disguise. She's accepted that closure doesn't always come in conversation. Sometimes it comes in distance. She knows that an apology can't rewrite character, and words can't undo patterns. So she doesn't wait for the day someone finally realizes her worth. She gives herself the recognition they couldn't. To her, the real apology is change. And if change doesn't happen, words mean nothing. That's why she stops expecting people to act out of conscience. She releases them, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because she deserves peace. When she walks away, it's not to punish anyone. It's to stop giving her energy to those who mistake it for permission. And that's what makes her dangerous in the quietest, most powerful way. She doesn't wait for closure. She becomes it. Number 4. She doesn't look back, because what's gone was never hers. When the Sigma female walks away, she doesn't replay the past or scroll through old memories like a highlight reel. She's not wired for nostalgia. She's wired for truth. And the truth she's learned the hard way is this: if something truly belonged to her, it wouldn't have needed chasing, convincing, or constant explanation. What's gone was never really hers, and that realization sets her free. She doesn't waste time wondering what could have been, because she knows that could have been is just another way of saying never was. To her, looking back only delays healing. The people who left, the opportunities that slipped, the moments that broke her, they were all chapters meant to end. She doesn't rewrite history to make others look better. She reads it exactly as it was and moves forward with sharper judgment and cleaner energy. Her strength lies in her emotional discipline. While most people cling to memories like safety nets, she cuts them loose once they start weighing her down. She knows that revisiting what hurt her won't bring peace. It only reopens wounds. So she replaces overthinking with acceptance and regret with redirection. Every exit becomes a form of protection, every ending a quiet beginning. When people from her past try to return, they find a version of her that no longer needs what they offer. She's not cold, she's just healed. She stopped expecting yesterday to apologize for itself. She no longer romanticizes what broke her, and she no longer grieves doors that were never truly open. The Sigma female's greatest power is her forward motion. She understands that peace doesn't come from fixing the past. It comes from refusing to relive it. What's gone is gone, and that's her closure. She doesn't look back because she's too busy evolving into someone her past couldn't handle. To her, letting go isn't loss. It's liberation disguised as indifference. Number 5, she destroys access, not memories. The Sigma female doesn't erase people from her mind. She erases their access to her life. She remembers everything, the words, the patterns, the energy shifts, and the moment things changed. But memory doesn't equal permission. Once she decides you've crossed the line, you're archived, not deleted, permanently stored in her lessons, but never again in her presence. Her emotional recall is powerful, not sentimental. She can remember the sound of your laughter without missing you. She can recall the good times without desiring to recreate them. That's her gift. She separates emotional awareness from emotional attachment. Where most people use memories to justify returning, she uses them as evidence for why she should never go back. When she disconnects, she doesn't need to block you, argue, or announce her departure. She simply removes your access, mentally, emotionally, and digitally. You could still have her number, but the version of her that once responded doesn't exist anymore. Her silence becomes a locked gate you can't force open. And the peace behind that gate? That's her reward for finally learning when enough is enough. The Sigma female understands that cutting access isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Not everyone who's been part of your story deserves a role in your future. She doesn't hold on to anger, because that would mean you still hold space in her energy. Instead, she converts every ounce of emotion into wisdom, until there's nothing left to prove. She's not haunted by her past, she's educated by it. The people she's let go of don't live rent-free in her head. They're neatly labeled under experience and stored away. That's why she moves on so cleanly. She remembers, but she doesn't revisit. She feels, but she doesn't reopen. She destroys access, not memories, because her mind is her archive, but her peace is her fortress. Number 6. She's not afraid of loneliness. She's afraid of emotional noise. The Sigma female has made peace with solitude in a way most people can't understand. She doesn't see being alone as a punishment. It's her reset button. Solitude isn't silence to her, it's clarity. She recharges in her own company because that's the only space where her thoughts are honest. Her energy is untouched, and her emotions aren't competing with anyone else's chaos. What truly unsettles her isn't loneliness. It's emotional noise. It's the exhausting hum of small talk, fake concern, and surface-level connections that go nowhere. She'd rather sit in silence than in a room full of people who don't listen, but only wait to speak. To her, isolation isn't measured by proximity, it's measured by authenticity. You can be surrounded by hundreds and still feel unseen. That's the kind of isolation she refuses to live in. She's learned that too many voices can drown out intuition. That's why she guards her space like sacred ground. She doesn't fear quiet moments, because that's when she hears her truth the loudest. While others panic at the thought of being alone with their thoughts, she welcomes it. It's where she meets herself without distractions. People sometimes mistake her independence for arrogance, but it's really emotional self-defense. She knows how draining it is to constantly filter her energy around people who misunderstand it. So instead of forcing connection, she retreats, refuels, and returns sharper. Her solitude isn't a wall, it's maintenance. The irony is that she's often labeled lonely by those terrified of being alone. They can't see that her solitude is a luxury, not a lack. She doesn't crave constant companionship because she's already at peace in her own presence. To her, loneliness isn't being without people. It's being surrounded by noise that drowns out your soul. And she'll always choose peace over noise, even if it means walking alone. Number 7. She uses disconnection as a power move, not a reaction. The Sigma female doesn't disconnect out of anger or impulse. She does it with intent. Walking away isn't a knee-jerk reaction to discomfort. It's a carefully calculated maneuver. Every time she withdraws, she's sending a message without saying a word. She controls her story, her energy, and her boundaries. She doesn't let other people write her narrative or dictate how she should feel, and she never gives them the satisfaction of her emotional availability when they've proven undeserving. Disconnection, for her, is a tool, a way to reset the balance of power. She knows that engagement often equals vulnerability, and vulnerability with the wrong people equals exploitation. So she steps back, and in that pause, she reclaims authority over herself. It's not dramatic. There are no grand speeches or fiery confrontations. She doesn't need them. Her absence is enough to assert dominance, clarity, and independence. She's strategic in choosing where her energy flows. She doesn't burn bridges recklessly or withdraw for the thrill of chaos. Every act of disengagement is intentional. It's a way of saying that her peace is non-negotiable and that she won't be held hostage by other people's insecurities, expectations, or manipulations. When she disappears from someone's life, it's not about punishment, it's about recalibration. Her power lies in restraint. She understands that silence often speaks louder than confrontation. Walking away becomes a statement. She is the author of her existence, not a character in someone else's story. People who try to pull her back into their narrative quickly realize she isn't coming, not because she's spiteful, but because she values her integrity over their comfort. For the Sigma female, disconnection is mastery. It's a declaration that she chooses when to engage, with whom and on what terms. She doesn't react, she commands. Her strategic absence isn't emptiness, it's presence in its most formidable form. Number 8. She doesn't argue, she withdraws energy. The Sigma female understands that not every battle is meant to be fought with words. She knows that arguments rarely change minds, especially when egos are inflated and logic is ignored. Instead of raising her voice or wasting energy trying to convince someone, she simply withdraws. Her silence isn't uncertainty, it's strategy. By pulling back, she preserves her energy while exposing the emptiness of the other person's position. When she stops responding, she's already left the room mentally. Her mind doesn't linger on proving a point or explaining herself. She knows that reasoning with the stubborn, the manipulative, or the controlling is like throwing water at fire. It only fuels the chaos. By disengaging, she removes the fuel entirely. Silence becomes her weapon, her calm her shield, and her absence of reaction a mirror reflecting the futility of confrontation. This isn't avoidance, it's mastery. While others argue to be heard, she demonstrates that her attention is her currency, and she won't spend it on someone unwilling to listen. Her withdrawal makes people uncomfortable because it's unexpected. They're used to pushback, debate, or defensiveness. But she doesn't need to fight. The moment she turns inward, the imbalance of power shifts. The louder the ego, the quieter she becomes, letting their own words and actions expose themselves. Her approach also protects her mental space. Constantly defending herself drains more than just time. It erodes peace, focus, and clarity. By withdrawing energy, she maintains sovereignty over her mind and emotions. She doesn't engage in endless debates to satisfy pride. She disengages to honor her own stability. In the Sigma female's world, silence is louder than argument, and absence is heavier than presence. She doesn't need to prove herself. She simply chooses where her energy goes. And in that choice lies her true power, the ability to walk away from conflict unshaken, unbothered, and entirely in control. Number 9. She doesn't seek revenge. She trusts time to humiliate the ungrateful. The Sigma female doesn't waste her energy on retaliation. Revenge is for those who need validation from others, who thrive on the illusion of control. She operates differently. Instead of plotting payback, she focuses on herself, upgrading her life, her standards, and her energy. Every step forward is a quiet but undeniable statement. She is moving past what tried to hold her back, and she doesn't need anyone else to fall for her growth to matter. Her philosophy is simple. Time is the ultimate revealer. People who underestimated her, took her for granted, or tried to manipulate her will eventually see the consequences of their actions without her involvement. Her absence, her silence, and her refusal to engage become a mirror reflecting their own behavior back at them. They watch as she flourishes, as her life expands in ways they never could have imagined, and the realization hits harder than any argument or confrontation ever could. This isn't about smugness, it's about strategy. She doesn't indulge in short-term satisfaction because she understands that real power is long-term influence. Every decision she makes, every boundary she enforces, is a move toward a life that makes those who wronged her irrelevant. They may have once occupied space in her life, but time ensures they are now background characters in a story she's rewriting on her terms. The beauty of her approach is that it removes obsession, bitterness, and emotional drain from the equation. She doesn't replay grudges or rehearse insults. She focuses on what matters: growth, peace, and personal evolution. And when the world finally notices her success, when the truth of her value becomes undeniable, the universe itself delivers poetic justice. For the Sigma female, revenge is unnecessary. She doesn't fight battles she doesn't need to win. She simply evolves, and evolution has a way of humbling the ungrateful. Her life becomes the statement, her absence the punctuation, and time the exposer of truth. That's the power of letting go and rising higher. It's a justice no one can resist or ignore. Number 10. She doesn't believe in second chances because she's already given too many first ones. The Sigma female doesn't hand out second chances like candy. She's done that before, and every time she did, she learned the same hard truth. People reveal who they really are the first time, and any attempt to rewrite that story is usually a performance. She knows that remorse after the fact is often a mask for manipulation, a way to regain access to something they once took for granted. She refuses to fall for it again. Experience has sharpened her judgment. She recognizes patterns in behavior that most people ignore, and she trusts those instincts over apologies and excuses. When someone crosses her boundaries or betrays her trust, she files the memory under lesson learned and moves on. She doesn't linger in hopes of a transformed version of them. She's already seen all the versions she needs to see. Second chances, to her, are wasted energy. They give people the false impression that rules are flexible, that her standards are negotiable. She doesn't need to teach lessons through repeated exposure. She teaches through withdrawal. When she closes a door, it's final, not out of cruelty, but out of wisdom. She knows that the cost of tolerance is often repeated disappointment, and she refuses to pay that price anymore. Her stance isn't about bitterness, it's about preservation. She protects her energy and her peace by refusing to engage with people who have already proven themselves untrustworthy. Life is too short to rebuild bridges for those who never respected the structure in the first place. She'd rather grow stronger alone than risk being manipulated again. The Sigma female's clarity is her power. She doesn't gamble with trust, and she doesn't hope for change where none is likely. The first chance was always enough. The rest is unnecessary. By refusing second chances, she ensures her life remains her own, and that the people she allows in are worthy of her rare and valuable presence. Number 11. She burns bridges as a form of emotional hygiene. For the Sigma female, burning bridges isn't an act of spite. It's a necessary ritual of self-preservation. She treats her emotional space the way others treat their bodies, with care, attention, and a zero-tolerance policy for toxicity. When an environment starts to drain her, suffocate her, or distort her energy, she doesn't argue with it or try to reform it. She simply steps away. To her, disconnection isn't cruelty. It's detox. She understands that lingering in a toxic space, no matter how familiar, is corrosive. Relationships that demand constant compromise or energy debt aren't opportunities to fix someone. They're infections she refuses to catch. Walking away is her way of cleaning house emotionally. It's a deliberate choice to prioritize clarity, sanity, and freedom over attachment or habit. Unlike most people, she doesn't linger on guilt or social expectations. She knows that staying out of obligation or fear is a slow form of self-erasure. Every bridge she burns clears the path for authenticity. It's not about punishing others, it's about restoring herself. She leaves behind what weighs her down, so she can move forward unburdened, breathing freer and thinking clearer. She also recognizes that emotional hygiene is preventative, not reactive. By cutting ties before resentment grows too deep, she protects herself from the lingering effects of manipulation, drama, and unspoken tension. She's proactive in safeguarding her peace, treating her energy like the precious resource it is. In her world, bridges aren't just paths. They're conduits for energy exchange. She refuses to keep pathways open to those who leech, drain, or distort her vitality. Burning them isn't destruction, it's liberation. Every burned bridge is a declaration. She will not compromise her well-being for comfort, history, or the illusion of obligation. For the Sigma female, emotional hygiene isn't optional. It's survival. Number 12. She doesn't warn before disappearing. Because warnings are courtesy to the manipulative. The Sigma female doesn't announce her exit. She doesn't send farewells, cryptic texts, or dramatic speeches to soften the blow. She's learned that warnings are often taken as opportunities to manipulate or guilt her into staying, and she refuses to give anyone that leverage. Her disappearance is silent, precise, and final. A statement made without words, yet louder than anything she could say. She understands a simple truth about human behavior. People rarely change out of understanding or remorse. Real change happens when they feel the absence of control, when they're confronted with the reality that what they had is no longer accessible. She doesn't need to force that lesson with confrontation. Her silence and absence do it more effectively than any argument ever could. Vanishing without notice is both shield and strategy. It protects her from emotional entanglement and prevents others from weaponizing her empathy against her. She knows that explanations, apologies, or discussions often backfire, becoming tools for manipulation rather than closure. By walking away silently, she maintains her autonomy and leaves the consequences to unfold naturally. Her disappearance isn't about cruelty or spite, it's about sovereignty. She's mastered the art of detachment, understanding that sometimes the strongest way to protect her energy is to remove herself entirely from the equation. The silence she leaves behind isn't empty, it's filled with lessons, clarity, and undeniable presence in absence. To the Sigma female, warnings aren't courtesy, they're compromises. She doesn't negotiate her peace for anyone, and she doesn't linger to ensure that people feel okay about her departure. She simply vanishes, leaving no trail, no expectations, and no control for others to cling to. And in that silence, her power is absolute. She chooses her exits, her energy, and her life on her own terms, and nothing left behind can ever pull her back. The Sigma female doesn't operate by the rules of society, tradition, or expectation. She burns bridges not out of spite, not out of anger, but out of necessity, as a form of emotional preservation, self-respect, and strategic empowerment. Each act of disconnection is precise, intentional, and unshakably final. She understands that peace is earned, boundaries are sacred, and her energy is the most valuable currency she possesses. She doesn't wait for apologies, beg for closure, or grant second chances. She doesn't argue or retaliate. She withdraws, she upgrades, and she lets time reveal the consequences of choices made against her. Every bridge she burns is a lesson for those who underestimated her, a declaration that her narrative is hers alone, and a statement that she will not allow her growth to be compromised by anyone else's selfishness or manipulation. She doesn't seek validation, recognition, or approval. Her strength comes from knowing her worth, respecting her own boundaries, and refusing to allow others to rewrite her story. While some mistake her silence or absence for coldness, the truth is far more powerful. She is deliberate, she is calculated, and she is unstoppable. In a world obsessed with approval, drama, and constant social negotiation, the Sigma female stands apart. She moves through life like a force of nature, quiet, composed, and unstoppable. Every decision she makes, every bridge she burns is a testament to the unshakable mastery she has over her mind, her energy, and her destiny. She isn't cruel, she is decisive. She isn't bitter, she is refined. She isn't lost, she is the final authority in her life, and nothing and no one will ever change that. If this deep dive into the power, strategy, and unbreakable mindset of the Sigma female resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more eye-opening insights. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, or share your own experiences. And don't forget to like and share this video with others who need to understand the extraordinary force that is the Sigma female. Her lessons aren't just fascinating, they are life-changing, and you don't want to miss what comes next.